We're live. We're live on the places that we're currently live, soon to be live on the places that we're not yet live. Once I click this button, and once I click this soon to be red go live button. There you go. Almost timed it right. Now we're live on all the places that we're live. The Great Dismantling. Is it real? This is a propaganda report. I am Brad Binkley, and we're live here at around 3:30 a.m. on the East Coast and about a half hour past midnight on the West, and whatever time it is where you are. But if you're watching this as a stream at a later point in the day that is not the times that I just stated, then you are watching a restream as I am continuing to experiment with different times of day to stream the show. What's up? What word spell? Dismantle what they can and shift to private hands like always. Yes, we'll see what comes of what's going on right now and what really does get dismantled. And turn my phone on mute there. So let's dive in here. The Great Dismantling, maybe. It's being reported last night that President Trump could soon sign an executive order directing the Secretary of Education to dismantle the Federal Department of Education. According to sources briefed on drafts of the order that have circulated among top administrative officials. Just love those anonymous sources that we have come to exclusively rely on. However, this does seem like it's in line with what Trump's been doing. What's up, Raw Meathead? Let me make that screen a little bit bigger so I can see what you're saying. The screen's too small down here. There we go. Oh, am I echoing? Is my audio echoing right now? Hopefully it's not. Maybe I can turn this down a bit in case it is. Yeah, you guys let me know in the chats if I have an echo. I'm going to check my audio real quick to see. Check. I don't think it is. Okay. All right. I'm going to operate as though it's not echoing. You guys tell me if it is in the chats. Or maybe that was just a comment. You're saying echo. All right. So, yeah, I think Trump is going to do something with the Department of Education. Will it be completely dismantled? I don't know that I believe that will happen, but it goes in line with the mix of things that Trump has been doing, which is things that people who voted for him like, and then things that people who voted for him really strongly dislike. Which that's going to be the case with any president. Thank you, what word spell. Appreciate that. The proposed order, a gut agency is expected to call for the education secretary to submit a proposal for dismantling the department and for Congress to pass legislation to get rid of it. So can't do it himself, going to call for Congress to pass that legislation because Congress is the group, the organization, the branch of government that has to be the one to dismantle a federal department or agency that it created. It just shows, according to the article here, that it happens at the aftermath of Republicans last week reintroducing a bill that would eliminate the agency. The bill, H.R. 899, contains just a single sentence, which is the Department of Education shall terminate on December 31st, 2026. I like that. I like that at all. No, I'm live. Yeah, I'm live right now, Raw. Meat herd. And that was written by Massey, I believe. Massey's one of the good ones. Unelected bureaucrats, this is Massey. Unelected bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. should not be in charge of our children's intellectual and moral development, said Representative Massey, one of the lead sponsors of the bill. States and local communities are best position to shape curricula that meet the needs of their students. Schools should be held accountable. Parents have the right to choose the most appropriate educational opportunities for their children, including homeschool, public school, or private school. Massey continued. I agree with all of that. Closing down the department would be an extraordinary move that would help Trump inch closer to fulfilling the promise he made for months on the campaign trail, dismantling the public education or the Department of Education and sending the education policy back to the states. Trump and the department skeptics have said that they believe the agency has too much spending power, more than $20 billion in 2025 fiscal year without adequate academic results. And the news comes as dozens of Department of Education employees received letters placing them on administrative pay leave over the weekend as the department takes steps to issue unprecedented reform. So, could this happen? Could this really happen? The dismantling of it, which would require, as the article says, an act of Congress, which means it has to get through the House, which it could, but then it also has to get through the Senate, which according to Forbes, the Senate, you'll have a bunch of Democrats doing a filibuster that will block it. So it's unlikely to be eliminated, but there still could be some of these funding cuts and project shutdowns like the DEI stuff, the critical race theory curriculum, the misinformation curriculum that they put out there, the LGBTQ stuff. I don't know. There can definitely be an effort to stop some of the stuff that is being forced down, which is good. It's all very good. However, this is why I've been telling people to watch out for the communists that have been coming or that are planning and are already starting to go to the public school board meetings in their local towns, because all of the commie activists are focusing their efforts on local now while everybody's paying attention to Trump. And I showed on the show last week a list of about 10 or so here in Georgia, progressive commie meetups where they were going to give you a partner, and you get a partner who takes you to these public school board meetings, and you take up the public comment time, and you say what your partner tells you to say, with the idea being that they're either going to attempt to, the schools, or they're going to try and pressure officials into ignoring what the federal change is, and to try to get the states and locales to continue implementing the very curriculum that what they say Trump might do, according to anonymous sources, would try and prevent. So don't let that happen. If you're worried that you have some commies in your town, if you have a town vulnerable to commie takeover, you better be going to the school board meetings. You better be going to your local, whatever happens at the Capitol, at your state, at your town, because the commies, I guarantee you, are there. Because they know that is where they can acquire power. And that is where they go. They find the weakest points they can co-opt. And they will exercise the very local power, which Republicans and libertarians say they want. But if you want it and you get it, you better make sure the commies don't take over it and use it against you. Massey is the only good one. Yeah. Were there ever any reports that you guys know of about what happened to his wife? Was she sick for a while? It's sad when anybody loses anybody, but I don't know the full story there. Nor do I have a right to know the full story. I'm just curious if it's out there. Yeah. Watch out for those commies coming over to your town. So that's the first. This Department of Education is awful, has been for a very long time. It's very toxic. It indoctrinates students. It's very Marxist. And I hope it gets abolished. I don't think it will. I think it will get downsized a bit. But before moving on to the next demolishing of the government story, potentially, if you do like the show, a quick reminder that if you want to help the show to continue, you can go to tinyurl.com/propshow and make a one-time or recurring donation to help sustain the show. The monthly donation can be $1, $5, can be whatever you want it to be. It's a donation of your choosing, the monthly one. You can also join the Propaganda Report Patreon at patreon.com/propaganda report, where you will get the show delivered directly to your RSS feed on whatever podcast app you listen on. Ad-free. I take all the ads out for subscribers. And you can also help the show by sharing it with friends friends who may like it or friends who may hate it, but hate listen. I'll take a hate listen. That's fine. I don't know if I have a lot of hate listens. Maybe I need to get more hate listens. Who knows? Or leaving a 5-star review and a comment that warms my heart. A comment like this one from Spouse Haas. And I blush reading this. It's very kind. Through Brad's intellect and comedic flair, he deciphers the BS in the mainstream media and the mainstream media propaganda that pumps into our feeds. He keeps you up on the current events with a cavalier attitude that leaves no stone unturned. Each episode leaves the listener wanting more, waiting for the next broadcast. Those are kind words, and they do warm my heart very much so. And I don't know about intellect. I do try, but I'm nothing if I'm not cavalier towards mainstream propaganda. So thank you again, Spouse House. And I appreciate you guys putting up with my promoting. I don't always like promoting, but I know that I have to. Raw Meat Herd says, we do have a right to know about Massey's wife's death. I could see an argument that I can agree with there, because if there was something that was illegal or criminal that happened? Absolutely. Because we know how the deep state targets the families of opponents. Yes. And it would actually, if they didn't want to create speculation, they could tell us if it was not something that was criminal. But I don't know. I don't know him. I don't know what he wants. I think probably ultimately it would be up to what he decided. Of course, people could leak it, but that would be dick. All right, on to the next dismantling story of the government, which is the one that just kind of blew up in the news yesterday and will continue today. Trump had this to say last night about one of the worst agencies in the history of mankind, even worse than the Department of Education, arguably, the USAID, which I've talked a lot about on this show. But this is one of the things that he said yesterday. It's very bad audio from Fox News here, so I apologize about that, but here it is.
USAID, or what's going on there?
Well, it's been run by a bunch of radical lunatics, and we're getting them out. USAID, run by radical lunatics, and we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision.
And we're getting them out, and then we'll make a decision. All right, so that's part of what he said. I'll play you a little bit more of what he said in a moment. The media here is trying to lead their audience to believe that Trump has, dismantled. He's already gotten rid of the USAID, but he has not. However, what has happened is that some senior officials at the agency have been put on leave after allegedly denying file access to part of the Doge team, although the Doge team says nobody on their team got access to anything that was above the credentials that they had. I don't know what I believe about any of that, but that's what the story is. What is it doing that? Hold on. Oh, my goodness. All right. Also, the USAID website went offline, which is hilarious. And its headquarters in D.C. was closed to staff starting yesterday, starting Monday, with employees being instructed to work remotely. That's funny because on the other end of it, Trump's demanding that you can't work remotely. But these employees, that they really don't want back, I'm guessing. So you can work remotely for now. So these are all great things if you're familiar with the kind of organization that the USAID is and the work that they do, because it's pretty much awful, which I'll get to some of that in a moment. Is there anything worse than radical lunatics, says Influx Bureau, which I'm sure I pronounced that wrong. Probably every time I pronounce it wrong. I don't know. Maybe radical commie lunatics. Sometimes a radical lunatic, depending on the context, you might need, isn't that what he used to frame Bolton as? Or he could have framed Bolton as a radical lunatic that they all thought he was going to go to war with him. That's why he had him behind. That's the way he justifies having Bolton in the previous administration. And on top of all this stuff, Marco Rubio, apparently, this is what he said anyway, is now the acting director of the agency, which he said he delegated the duties to somebody that he works closely with, but he's the acting director, and he said the goal of the agency is to align foreign aid with national interest. So tax dollars aren't spent on stuff like child trafficking and regime change, like this organization is well known for, regime change especially. And I'm not a Rubio fan at all. I've never been a Rubio fan. I don't trust him. But like I said, I like the rhetoric. I like what's being said here. But the question becomes, because I really don't think they're going to get rid of this. I mean, you can tell by the way Rubio's talking, they're not actually going to eliminate this agency. What are those operations? And what are those national interests that those operations are going to align with? We get the general, we need the specific, because the corrupt activity of a federal agency, getting rid of it is great and all, like ending that. But all the virtue of doing so, kind of goes away if you then turn right around and use that very same agency to engage in different types of corrupt activity. So I hope that is not, I hope it's not a repurposing of it. Because I like the ending, but I like a little more transparency on the direction. Maybe they don't know the exact direction yet. You give them time for that. Raw Meat Herd says, and it's wise to wonder about the untimeliness of his high school sweetheart's demise. Of course, I agree with that. Talking about Massey's wife. Now, the outrage for the media has been exploded. I mean, it's what they do. You pick something and you commit to the entire day, at least, maybe 2 days, sometimes a week, of just being full-blown outraged about it, like it's going to kill your family. That's the media's job, even if nothing is going on. In fact, the only week of the year the media doesn't do this is the week that they tell us that Jimmy Carter just happens to die right before New Year's. It's like 1 week of the year when the B team around Christmas time and New Year's is in, where they're kind of a little bit chill. For some reason, every year, hardly any news happens during that period of time. Every other week of the year, what's the one thing that might happen or that it's all speculation to it, a lot of the news. It's all what might happen, what we're trying to make you think has happened, and we're all just going to be, oh my God, and that's what the news was the past couple of days. Very disingenuous claim that Trump has already violated the Constitution, which for them to believe, the audiences, it requires their audiences, the way the media has been screaming and Democrats screaming. Democrats had a big rally outside of the Capitol yesterday where Omar and just all the worst people are out there screaming, we will fight for the USA. I mean, which is like crazy. It's like crazy. I mean, this agency has $50 billion. It's like the biggest or second biggest expenditure on foreign aid that we have. You can do a lot of damage with $50 billion, a budget like that. And they're like, whoa, like they're fighting for the little man. It's crazy. And their audience would have to believe that Trump has already single-handedly to believe he violated the Constitution, that without approval of Congress, he's done something that only Congress has the right to do. Eliminate the USAID. He has not done that. He has not done that. But the entire media cycle yesterday, and I'm sure today and tomorrow it will be as well, there'll be a couple other outrage things that pop up, but it's all been about how he's violated the Constitution. Holy crap! I mean, to have a rally with members of Congress in front of the Capitol, that's taking it above and beyond. With this one, Trump has neither signed an executive order asking Congress to pass legislation that eliminates the USAID, like anonymous sources say they think he's going to do when it comes to the Department of Education. Everything's so speculative, isn't it? Nor has he outright said, poof, it's gone. None of that has happened. Like a bad video game, they just reskin the agency to a different... Yeah, you're right. You're right. Exactly right. It's painted a different color. That's what they could do. But the media has been able to do this because Trump does what he does. I mean, they all play this game, and we are all subject to it. Sometimes it can be fun if you recognize what's going on, you decipher it, and you rise above it. But most people, like, I think people that watch this show, I think we do. I don't think most people do, though. 'Cause at least some people I talk to, sometimes they're just a little taken aback where it's like, this is all a little game they're playing with each other, right? You're believing all this. You're believing the screaming outrage and whatever. But all of this is based on what Trump said while making seemingly off-the-cuff comments while taking questions as he signed executive orders from the Oval Office. Which, by the way, you guys remember when he used to take questions outside the helicopter in his first administration, became known as chopper talk? This is the new chopper talk. Except he's signing executive orders and showing them off as he takes questions, which I think we should come up with a name for that. I don't have a good one yet. I have the bad ideas for a name for that, like desk discourse, sign speak, oval, ostinate. I think there can be much better ones than that, but I think we need to name what's clearly going to be a regular activity of his, signing executive orders while taking questions, the new chopper talk. But this is the clip that has enabled the media to engage in this outrage cycle. Here, let me show you. Present. Yeah, here it is. All right, here he is.
Will it take an act of Congress to do away with USAID, or do you believe you have?
I don't know. I don't think so. No, if not when it comes to fraud. If there's fraud, these people are lunatics. And if it comes to fraud, you wouldn't have an act of Congress. And I'm not sure that you would anyway. But we just want to do the right thing. It's something that should have been done a long time ago. It went crazy during the Biden administration. They went totally crazy what they were doing. And the money they were giving to people that shouldn't be getting it, and to agencies and others that shouldn't be getting it, was a shame. So they're tremendous fraud. But we'll be doing a report. We'll be giving you that report at the appropriate time. Yeah.
The first respect.
I love the concept of it. Yeah. Sure. I love the concept, but they turn out to be radical left lunatics. And the concept of it is good, but it's all about the people.
I mean, even at the end there, he tells you exactly. He loves the concept of it. It's all about the people. They're not going to get rid of it. They're going to change the people. So it's very obvious, in my opinion, what's going to happen. But this is what has enabled the outrage. He's violated the Constitution to single-handedly remove this thing that only Congress can remove. Because they think their audiences are stupid. And they need to keep them terrified. I mean, isn't that a terrible thing? You have these news organizations who only have relevance based on their ability to strike fear in their audience's hearts and keep them coming back because their audience believes that they are the ones who are going to give them the answers and help save them. It's torture. It's terrorism. Maybe everybody who engages in it doesn't think about it that way. I'm sure they don't. But the model is designed to terrorize your audience to keep them and grow them. There's perverse incentives with these media organizations. And so the question was about, will it take an act of Congress to do away with the USAID? And Trump responded mid-question, as he does. No, when it comes to fraud, we won't take one, a fraud. What does all that mean anyway? Omitting the end of it where he clearly showed that he's not going to get rid of it. He's going to replace the people, which he does have the right to do without an act of Congress. Get rid of fraudulent programs on top of the people. Nothing about that, unless you're intentionally misinterpreting it, is going to lead you to believe without further developments that he's actually going to eliminate that without congressional approval. Yet that's been the entire news cycle. Screaming rally. I mean, the Democrats were at the microphone screaming about how they're going to protect the USAID like it's a little baby. It's really not. It's not crazy. It's very performative. Not that I would expect anything else. Here, I'll show you one of the. I don't have it pulled up, but I'll find it. USAID, not is. USAID. Trump. All right. Yeah, they got blah, blah, blah. So the Democrats protested outside the Capitol. I'm sure they got the activists' emails, and they were handed the signs to bring. They're not, these organizations, you see these people holding signs at these rallies. They're not allowed to bring their own signs or write their own slogans. They tell you that in the activist email. I get them all the time. They give you the signs. That's why somebody commented about how they're all in the same handwriting. That's because they don't want you retards writing your own thing and messing it up. And they don't want any rogue slogans slipping in to their little top-down organized rally. So here's Amar, the girl who they say married her brother or whatever.
It's really, really a sad day in America. We are witnessing a constitutional crisis. We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one, and here we are. This is what the...
We talked about this a lot. He never said... They know exactly what he said. They know he didn't say that, a dictator. I know he said for one day, but it doesn't matter.
Beginning of dictatorship looks like.
This is what it looks like.
When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made. What Trump and Elon and all of their cronies are trying to do is take away the constitutional power of Congress. We get to decide. We have the power of the purse. We get to decide where money is allocated, and it's the executive's power to make sure that that money gets to where it needs to get. When
all based on that clip I just showed you of Trump. All of this.
we talk about civil servants being let go, what we are talking about is not saving money. It's essentially saying they can get paid while they're home and their work doesn't get done on behalf of the American people. It is us, taxpayers, who are...
So you see how she tries to pull that one around. She didn't even do it very smoothly because it is... Trump can fire people. He doesn't need an act of Congress to fire people. She knows that. So she has to spin this talking about telling these workers, these federal workers, that they can stay home. She has to spin that into, you see how much of a waste of taxpayer dollar this is, that they're at home not doing their job, when she knows it's a very conflicting message because she, I'm sure, has advocated or since Trump actually came out and said, he made that ultimatum about, which is pretty funny, about you have to come back in and work. You can't work from home anymore. That he tells this group that they can work from home. So she's all like, you can tell. She doesn't know how to phrase this because I'm sure she raged against that ultimatum to work from home or to come in or work from, or you're fired basically. And he said you're going to get, basically you can get a payout, a buyout that'll pay you through September or something like that. So she's definitely going to be against that. But now she's turning around, she's having to say, oh, but working from home, which is something she almost definitely was advocating yesterday, that's inefficient. So she's like arguing Trump's yesterday point right now because she's trying to argue against the assertion of what she's saying that Trump said today. It's all so convoluted.
Being ripped off.
Yeah, we're being ripped off. Look at her. Listen how
saying they can get paid while they're home and their work doesn't get done on behalf of the American people. It is us, taxpayers, who are being ripped off. It is us, taxpayers, who are not getting the resources that we paid into. So I ask the American people, do you want people at home and getting a paycheck and not providing services to you? The answer is no. Do you want the executive making the
So Trump should have somebody should cut that part right there. Do you want people at home not working or whatever? And then he should share it on Truth Social and on his X account saying, I'm glad to see Omar agrees with my new in-office policy at the something like that. That's a perfect clip to do that.
only decisions in this country, or do you want the elected representatives that you send to Washington making those policies? I am exceptionally upset about U.S. aid.
That's how I always say it. When I'm really mad, I say, I'm exceptionally upset with you. TT says, seems like she's doing a shitty Christopher Walken impersonation. Yeah, it does a little bit. What Word Spell says, Dr. Webb expressed concerns that this is a play to give Musk access to data for X Everything app. I don't think Trump would even fear repercussions for violating a said constitution. He might not. You might be right. But the point I'm trying to highlight is that he hasn't done the thing that they're all trying to convince these people that he's done. And watching that clip, he's not going to get rid of that organization. All of this is based on Trump eliminating the USAID agency, which watching that clip, he's clearly not going to do. He ends it by saying, I love the concept of it. It's the people. He's going to replace the people. And this entire show we're seeing is based on this future that doesn't exist where he single-handedly poofed it out of existence. Now, that doesn't mean he is going to be the most constitutional president ever in other avenues. I don't disagree with that. I think he's going to take what he can get, honestly. Now, that's an interesting thought about the Everything app, because Musk definitely is trying to turn X into that Everything app. What's it called? We app in China? He's even said that before, that he wants to turn it into the We app. What data? So the classified data, yeah, I don't even know. Yeah, maybe, but I think that he can get that data in many other ways too. Model Mark says it is us taxpayers being ripped off. She's never paid taxes, any taxes. She lives off of taxes. You're right. Oh, Whitney Webb. Yeah, I'd be interested to see. I'm sure she has a video. I can find it. What data she's talking about. I mean, there's always data everywhere. What the data from the USAID? I don't know. I don't know all the data they have. I think there's many, many ways that Musk is harvesting data. Honestly, I think we're all, maybe not all of us, but I think most people are just giving him all of the data. I think that's what we actually do to most of these companies. And we give data to, we click on these things because things seem easier if we click on them, and we give up some of our, a lot of our data. And some people actually very much value convenience over privacy. Maybe not verbally, but when it comes down to it, they'll click the checkbox, even if they might not like it. But I'll check out what Whitney's. Whitney's a very good researcher, and she always has a lot of good information about stuff like this. And she definitely questions Elon. Well, Elon should be questioned. Elon's a little weird. Let's be honest. I like some of the stuff he says sometimes, but I think he's there's something about Elon to me.
I lived in a refugee camp for 4 years as a child surviving civil war. It is the essential programs that USAID provided that kept my family and I fed and safe.
Fat and safe? Is that what you
It
mean?
is the resources that so many people around the world rely on. And it is our soft power.
It's our soft power. So that's what it really is. All that other stuff is the guise. This is what it really is. It's the propaganda.
Oftentimes, people interact with our country through the military. That does not create love for us, and it certainly does not keep us safe.
It's so interesting just to see them fighting so hard for one of the most corrupt agencies that's ever existed. Completely. I mean, it's such a corrupt agency. And they're just they're sticking up for their federal friends who are working in the government, who have helped them, I'm sure, propagate their Marxism around the world. And the way they're drumming this up from a tactical standpoint, propaganda-wise, is they're doing the same thing, really, that they're doing the same thing, and Trump's doing the same thing. They're intentionally misinterpreting something and getting really outraged, just as Trump is intentionally being vague. They're both doing the same thing they know gets people worked up. It's the same trick. We're going to get super mad about something we know is probably not going to happen, and Trump's going to be vague because he knows that they will do that. And the cycle goes on and on and on. Your father gave me this watch at a refugee camp. Right. Yeah, that's where she got her, whatever that thing is she wears on her head. All right. So it's not getting dismantled. I don't believe it. Maybe downsized, maybe repurposed in a good way. Let's hope it gets repurposed in a good way. But just some fuel for your progressive friends, which many of you know this, but just a little more information about the USAID, its history and whatnot. What your progressive friends think it is, or what they'll say, is a lot like what they call themselves on their website right now. Maybe they'll change it. But they say they're the principal U.S. agency to extend assistance to countries recovering from disaster, trying to escape from poverty and engaging in democratic reforms, which is kind of exactly what she said there. They're stopping AIDS worldwide, stuff like that. But that's not what they are. You guys know that. What they really are is they're like the government version of an NGO that hides its corruption behind its stated philanthropic purpose. We're doing good around the world, humanitarian purpose. But in reality, they're hiding the corrupt activities behind this philanthropic purpose is the intel agencies and the international propagandists who use the USAID to, as I said earlier, overthrow foreign countries, censor speech on social media abroad, which blows back to over here because calls to censor it worldwide because social media goes across borders, and to something that I haven't seen a lot of people talking about, but I've been following this closely. They use the USAID to help build Ukraine back better into a pre-planned digital government that they had in the works before that war even started. And as I said, a budget of over $50 million is a lot to do that propagandizing with. What Workspell says USAID to be rehoused in Rubio's State Department. Yeah, right. Musk has access to banking information. Yeah, I've never read those X terms of service, but I bet there's a lot. So, and a lot of people, because a lot of people are trying to get that X money, which most people aren't going to actually, even if you have a huge following, you don't get that Tiffany, Fong money or whatever her name is. But propagating that you might make people give up a little bit more information, sign up for some of these other things. He is trying to turn it into everything app, that's for sure. So when it comes to building Ukraine back better, I've shown this a good bit on the show, but this is a good time to show it right now. The way that they have been doing that, this agency, the USAID, what does that stand for again? USAID. Keep forgetting. United States Agency for International Development. Philanthropic BS. They're doing it through the $28 million the U.S. has invested in developing what's called the DIA app, which they have successfully deployed this app throughout Ukraine since the beginning of the war with Russia. And this app is designed to turn Ukraine into the world's first fully e-government, fully digital government, which the head of the agency during Biden's admin, Samantha Powers, her reign ended just back in January on Inauguration Day. She would often go on the networks and gleefully promote how the silver lining of the war between Ukraine and Russia is that it has expedited the widespread adoption of this DIA app across Ukraine, as she does here in this clip on Rachel Maddow. Here she is.
One-stop shop, and it was Zelensky's vision in 2019 to create the start in the. It was Zelensky's vision in 2019 to create the state in a smartphone or the state in an app, and miraculously, the war hasn't slowed that progress down. It's accelerated the progress. The other aspect of it, Mikhailo talked about convenience, which I think citizens' experience of government is so much about, is government making my life simpler and more convenient, or is it making it harder? And this app is something that I think the president in Ukraine has used to enhance the state's legitimacy, which of course is up anyway because of the invasion. But nonetheless, this is about democracy delivering in the lives of citizens, which is something President Biden talks a lot about as well.
How do you stop the Russians from being able to act?
So the war hasn't slowed down the implementation of this app and the spread of it. And it hasn't slowed down Zelensky's promise from 2019 to make Ukraine the world's first fully digital e-government. It's miraculously sped it up. And there's other clips of her talking about this. This is from 2023, where she says the silver lining of this conflict, perhaps one of the purposes of it, actually. She says it right there. 2019, Zelensky committed to making this happen. Then this war happens, which helps expedite the fulfilling of his promise to us, which we gave him just $28 million worth of an app to use. And then they go on to talk about how successful it is and how they are now exporting. This is the pilot study, Ukraine is. That's what they're talking about toward the rest of this clip. And the success in their pilot has enabled them to now export the use of this in other countries. I think none of India. There's a couple other countries he mentions that they're about to start using it based on the model and the success that they have had in Ukraine. Not saying that's why they did the war, but this is definitely part of building Ukraine back better. You demolish all of the old infrastructure so you can build it all back better to perfectly facilitate this fully e-digital government and the smart infrastructure and world that they're going to use Ukraine as a test pilot of. That's why, in my opinion, we kept giving them enough weapons to continue to fight enough so that they could continue to be demolished, and not enough weapons to defeat Russia, because they wanted them to keep fighting until the entire country was rubble. Because refitting old analog infrastructure into new digital infrastructure, it's a lot harder than just starting from scratch. I don't know if there's a lot of old architecture in Ukraine. If I had to speculate, it's a good question. I would say yes. But that's me speculating. That's a good question. Oh, Samantha Powers, by the way. This lady. Look at this shovel face CNN lady, too. This is the Ukraine guy. All right, so there she is. So Samantha Powers, she's the wife of Cass Sunstein, who was the chief propagandist to Barack Obama. He infamously wrote the 2008 paper titled Conspiracy Theories, in which he advocated stopping the spread of conspiracy theories by, quote, cognitively infiltrating extremist groups, however he defines that, and attempting to undermine those groups' belief in conspiracy theories like 9/11. He later turned that paper into a book titled Conspiracy Theories and Other Dangerous Ideas. That was in 2014. He's also the author of a book on manipulating people called Nudge, and there's a sequel to that. And he also titled a book called Climate Justice: What Rich Nations Owe the World. This is Samantha Powers' husband, who I'm sure was very supportive of all of the initiatives that the USAID organization engaged in internationally while she was the head of it. So get these people out of positions of power. Absolutely. A couple of examples of problems and where the money went from the USAID organization is there's been problems in tracking and transparency where the funds go, as seems to be always the case with foreign expenditures. Money often ends up in the hands of Al-Qaeda and, Nazis in Ukraine, maybe, neo-Nazis. Just last month, which I haven't heard much about this, but a former USAID mission director was debarred for 20 years last month. It's like January 25th when this was published. After soliciting and paying commercial sex workers, the Office of Inspectors General, their official press release did not release the name of this official, but it did say that the OIG and the DS found evidence showing that the former mission director posted online reviews for over 40 sex workers located in the U.S. and overseas. He told the OIG and the DS special agents that he had solicited and paid for sex workers while on temporary duty assignments and while he posted overseas as a U.S. Aid Foreign Service officer. You think he's the only one doing that? Why are you leaving reviews? You're getting hookers on taxpayer dime and you're leaving you're leaving an evidence trail? And they also fund, this is another interesting one. So look at this. This is from 2014. Just to really emphasize how corrupt this agency is. This is from Foreign Policy, which is usually left-leaning. I mean, it is. In 2014, USAID funded the 2010 Cuban Twitter, which is called Zumo. I'm reading a little bit into the article here, which was a secret social media platform to incite a dissent in Cuba, which backfired and allowed Cuban intelligence to monitor users. And the title here, it says, Cuban Twitter and other times U.S. aid pretended to be an intelligence agency. And subtitled with this, it says, foreign governments have long accused the U.S. Agency for International Development of being a front for the CIA or other groups dedicated to their collapse. In the case of Cuba, they appear to have been right. In an eye-opening display of incompetence, the United States covertly launched a social media platform in Cuba in 2010. So that's not like a right-leaning thing there. There's a long history of this organization engaging in corrupt activity and being used as a front organization for intel agencies to engage in regime disruption and change. Not because the American people voted on it, but just because they did that. And here you have a bunch of Democrats outside the Capitol saying, we will fight for this these poor criminals. Give me a break. They also collaborated with the CIA's Office of Public Safety in the 1960s and 70s to train police forces accused of torture and accused of torture tactics. When it comes to the funding, the WITS Health Consortium, you might have seen some of this on X today or yesterday, a Southern African research facility that studies the transmission of HIV among sex workers and transgender people, received $30 million from the organization since 2018. They funded a $38 million worth of grants that ended up going to the same lab where COVID-19 is believed to have originated in Wuhan. $1.5 million they gave to a pro-LGBTQ NGO in Serbia called Grupa Lazida, which in English translates to a group come out. So you come out as a group. Let's get together and we'll all come out as gay. You know, everything's easier in a group. And that organization's mission was to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion in Serbia's workplaces and business communities by promoting economic empowerment and opportunity for LGBTQI. And then the Pervian trans comic book that people have been talking about in that $25 million DAB. So this stuff about the LGBT stuff, that kind of makes me think of China trying to feed us the dumb TikTok to affect culture. I wonder if some would argue that, well, they're trying to weaken other people's culture. I honestly don't know if Serbia is our ally. I'm assuming Serbia is our ally, though, because why would we give money to them? Yeah, Yeah. So if they were doing this in Russia, then maybe. So yeah, that does it. It's like spreading Marxism when they're doing it to allies, is what it is. Model Mark says you've been to Ukraine frequently. There's old architecture, but mostly old USSR flats that are not much to look at. Interesting. I'm on the ground inside. Appreciate that. What word spell says Brett Weinstein lost his shit when Whitney Webb stated facts about Trump's history in regard to the WHO. Entertaining read on X. Yeah, it's X encourages extreme reactions and it does not encourage nuance, but it's hard to see many discussions about what people like along with the things that they don't like without it exploding into you either like them or you hate them type thing. And there's no doubt you can point out some things that Trump has done. I mean, the warp speed thing was kind of a deal breaker for me. But some of the cuts he's been making, which maybe that's placating domestically, so we don't pay attention to what's going on internationally, which is a propaganda tactic. They all, 100 years ago, every single one of them, and I'm sure since then, wrote about how you got to keep them occupied domestically. You got to give them what they want, especially when maybe you're leading up to war, so the children can celebrate here and leave us alone while we do the foreign policy stuff. But that is a little bit harder nowadays with how politicized the culture is and social media and everybody being attached to the screen. Yeah, TT says, thanks, Model Mark. I was wondering if they were destroying old architecture along with the lines of, Tantaria? Theories of destroying the old world. Interesting. All right. So that's the demolition. I expect that we'll see more stories about this. And what will be more interesting is to see what actually happens instead of just the outrage about what the media wants people to think is going to happen. And the vagueness around which Trump intentionally says things so that he can trigger the media and then later say the way that he wants to say it. These are all politicians, and some of them are better at it than others. It can be entertaining to watch as long as you don't get overwhelmed by it. So moving on to a similar story, but in a little bit of a more local flavor. This is happening in Georgia here. Headline is, I love this actually because it's so stupid. Church pastor heads nationwide 40-day fast from Target after DEI policies rolled back. That's right, Target department stores. There's a pastor here who is putting out a new call to boycott the retailer after they rolled back their diversity stuff initiatives. He said this. He said, I'm calling for a 40-day fast from Target. Dr. Jamal Byron of New Birth Cathedral told his congregation on Sunday. He said the fast or boycott would begin on March 5th, so you can continue shopping there for Black History Month. But once March 5th hits, no more. It's like the sex ban that those weird girls are doing because Trump, except with Target. On Monday, Channel 2's, this is a local station, asked Bryant why he chose Target. And this is what he said. He said black people across the country spend $12 million a day at Target. And he wanted to hone in on that initially. He wanted to focus. That's what they talk about when it comes to propaganda, is you have to choose one enemy to vilify. Because if you have too many, people will split their focus. So let's make Target the bad guy in this fight, which he's making a fight against black people, which is weird because the group that benefited most from DEI initiatives were white women. But okay. He went on to say this. After the George Floyd murder, let's bring that in. After the George Floyd murder, they went bigger than anyone first. They made all these grand promises, and for them, a few years later, to abandon that, it really hurt their base. Did it? I mean, did it hurt their base? Is this going to be effective? This, to me, actually is more likely to help Target. Because I think Target is one of those companies that abandoning its DEI measures is probably not going to win a lot of people back. It's probably make people go, oh, come on, you were way too gay and too, it was just in our face. We don't care. But the fact that somebody's now coming out and calling to ban it might make some of those people say, okay, I hate Target and I hate what they did, but just because of this, I will begrudgingly go shop there. I'll go get a tight V-neck t-shirt for $8 that I could get for $6 at Walmart. Conway said a nationwide boycott can really hurt the company's bottom line, especially if people start dumping stocks. Oh, he wants people to dump stocks now. This guy's got big aspirations here. He says it's showing that we're not only just going to put our shopping behavior behind, we're going to put our investment behavior. So isn't that a little presumptuous? Just to presume that everybody he's talking to invests in the stock market? A lot of people don't. You know? I wonder how many people in his congregation are holding Target stock. How many people, one, are in a position to be in the stock market. Two, said, you know what? Target's going trans and gay. I'm buying in. Who does that? A retard? Byron said there's now a website. Oh, there's a website. That's great. There's a website where you can sign up for the 40-day fast. And here's what, so by June, he says he should have enough data. So he should have enough data. So he's an organizer trying to prove himself, doing a very poor job of it, I think, is what this is. He's trying to work his way up the political ladder. That's exactly what this is. He said by then, he'll get the data he needs, and he will then plan a similar fast for other companies who also drop their DEI policies. Their DEI policies. Here's what so the website is just a little, you can tell that they really are a little out of touch with what the DEI stuff is. There you go. I might go through more of this later. You see that? Yeah, there it is right there. Just a big black X on the Target logo. But when you go over here, it's all about like black. It doesn't give a shit about any other DEI, no LGBT, no women, nothing, just black people is all this initiative cares about. Like I said, women, white women, benefited the most from DEI. It's so stupid. The 4 demands that this makes of Target is, number 1, to honor the $2 billion pledge to the black business community through products, services, and black media buys. So, not through the underwear for women that has a pocket for your dick that they were allegedly selling. Number 2, deposit $250 million amongst any of their 23 black banks. So this is a very self-focused initiative that this guy is running here. It's like deposit $250 million into my account is one of the conditions. That's what it seems like. Completely restore the franchise commitment to DEI. Okay. But only certain DEI. Number 4, pipeline community centers to 10 HBCUs to teach retail business entry level. Okay. All right, well, that's. I bet that none of that happens, actually. I bet that doesn't work at all. All right, where are we here? All right, I'm going to save that story for later. We'll be doing a show later tonight between 8:30 and 9. A couple more quick things. I'm going to get out of here. You guys might have seen that there's been some calls to put Trump on Mount Rushmore. In fact, legislation was introduced by Florida Representative Anna Paoluna. You guys familiar with Anna Paoluna? Let me put her on screen real quick. Anna. No, can't do that. Wouldn't it be weird if one day X switched out your search bar for your posting, so everything you searched for it posted? It'd be kind of a nightmare for some people. Luna. There she is. There she is. There's old Anna. Just to give you a look at what Anna looks like. So here's Anna Paoluna right here, back when she was a swimsuit model for MAGA, before she became a congressperson. She has introduced legislation to put Trump's face on the monument. And I say, okay, do it, but only if she does it and she does it in a bathing suit. That's my condition. Yeah, she's the one with the tits. That's correct. She's got to do it in a bathing suit, and she's got to have the jackhammer or whatever it is they're doing. That's the only condition, and I think we can get enough votes behind it if that's the case. Not Lindsey Graham's. You won't get Lindsey Graham's. You're going to need somebody with a really big package and a tight pair of underwear to get Lindsey Graham behind it. Maybe The Rock or something also has to be involved for him. All right, enough of her. I mean, never enough of her, actually. So, a little bit of a different note to close things out here. In his, he'll put them tits on Rushmore with Trump's head. Now that I'm okay. I mean, maybe. Imagine if technology to like make carvings into mountains advanced so much, you could just right off of your 3D printer, you just print something. You can go, deface any monument, and you could just put dicks on the faces of any figure on any monument anywhere. That's coming, okay? That'll be here. And depending on who you put it on will depend on whether or not you go to Guantanamo. So, in his first return to the Grammys since he slapped Chris Rock in the face back in 2022, it was Will Smith who this year was the one who got slapped in the face by his children, Jaden and Willow, with the outfits they showcased on the red carpet. Willow, let me show you here. You guys have seen this, I'm sure. Well, let me get the side by side so you guys get the full effect. There they are. There they are on screen there. Smith's daughter Willow walked the red carpet showing off her crystal embellished panties and bra. She had a long sport coat on over it, but basically nude with a little bit of diamonds on her coochie and boobs to the whole world, while Jaden, not to be outdone by his younger sister, wore a tuxedo on his body, very nice tuxedo, which he capped off with a $4,600 vampire castle that he wore on his head. And for those listening, not just on top of his head, he wore it on his head like a helmet with his face partially crammed in there where the door would be. You can see it here on screen. The thing on his head looks like it was made by whoever does Hunter Biden's art, and they just charged a fraction of the price for it, $4,600. $4,600 to cram his face into this thing. I mean, this is... if I were him, I would have said, please let me wear the diamond bra and panties. Let me go trans. I'll wear that. Put this thing on her head. I mean, she looks much older than him here. I mean, he obviously looks like an idiot child with a freaking castle on his head. I would like to see the look on Will Smith's face, who was a presenter, by the way. I think he presented 2 awards. He makes a big comeback after that thing a couple of years ago that may or may not have been staged. I would have liked to have seen the look on his face when he saw his kids walk in. It no doubt would have been the most embarrassing moment of his life had his wife not already previously talked openly on a podcast about having an affair, an entanglement with his son Castleheads here, his friend. So mark this as the second most embarrassing thing to ever happen to Will Smith. Now everybody in his family has just completely embarrassed him. His wife banged his son's rapper friend. Now his daughter dressed like a diamond-encrusted whore on the red carpet, and his son, God knows what his son is doing. He should be taken straight to some sort of mental facility, which maybe that's what the Grammys is a mental facility. It's no wonder these two kids are so well adjusted. Willow also, I can't imagine her. She probably thought she was going to be the most naked person on the red carpet. Like any other year, she might have been, but not on Kanye's watch. Because as Ye is not to be outdone by anything, as he and his wife, Bianca Censori, showed up, and Censori wore an outfit that censored nothing. I'm sure you've probably seen it. I'm not going to show that one. But it appears she comes out in a jacket, like a big fur coat. You get out of the car, she walks up on the red carpet in front of the cameras, and Kanye, who's just looking like he's got his glasses on and he's like playing a character, just tells her to take it off. And she takes it off, and she's literally naked. She has something that resembles a dress on, but it's just completely transparent. It's like a full-body stocking. And you just see everything. And Ye steps out of the way, and they just take pictures of her, and she poses like it's on the red carpet. And the best part about it is, right after that, they didn't get thrown out. Some people think they got thrown out. They didn't. Right after that, they dipped. They went there to do that. They were there 5 minutes for that. And that's the only thing anybody's ever going to remember about this Grammys, which has to really be a bummer for the guy who wore a Transylvania castle on his head. The 1 year you shove your head into a giant castle, Ye has to make his wife walk butt naked on the red carpet. Kanye is a take it there kind of guy. He's a hold them to their own rules kind of guy. Because women show up to these things all the time, almost naked, maybe flashing a nip or two, some transparent stuff. And Kanye is like, all right, if that's what they're going to do, let's do it. And he goes full naked with the see-through thing, making them criticize themselves if they are to criticize him and his wife. He will not be one-upped, which makes you really wonder what we might see Censori show up in next year after Ye saw the vampire house on Jaden's head. She better work those shoulders because it's going to be something bigger and better. Just imagine this thing with Jaden he had on, but butt naked, and it's Ye's wife, and they're there for 5 minutes. It's all weird and ritualistic. She seems to like it, especially if you watch some of the other videos of them. Like Kanye's thing seems to be always like he's not paying attention to her. Like that turned her on. It's an interesting relationship. I can't imagine what they're like at Thanksgiving dinner. Probably normal. What if they're just completely normal? Anywhere when there's not cameras around, they're just the most down-to-earth couple. She wears a turtleneck. You know, he's very engaging. He's wondering what's going on in everybody's life. He's giving great advice. I hope he's like that. That would be even funnier if he was behind the scenes. Okay. That's it for today, guys. What's CPS? I'd suggest CPS for those kids. But I've heard bad things about CPS. Is that cognitive something? What is that? Politicians and lawyers from Baywatch. At least some of us are aware it's all a big show. Yeah, very, very true. So yes, just sex on the red carpet next year. But he set the new standard, though. So now everybody's going to be butt naked. They're going to have to be. So you're right. So he's going to have to bring, so there's going to be a couple having sex. Kanye's going to have to bring like 8 girls, and he's going to make his wife have sex with him on the red carpet. Or if he really wanted to flip it, he could do the Thanksgiving thing, and he could have her show up in a turtleneck, and then he could ostracize everybody. I can't believe you all had sex on the red carpet. That my wife, who's becoming a nun, she's joining nunnery, had to walk on. It's disgusting. Had to send her shoes to the dry cleaner. Child Protective Services. Yeah, you're right. They're too old, though, and to send themselves to it. They probably needed to go there when they were younger. Probably back when, Jada was entangling with her son's rapper buddy. That'd be something, wouldn't it, if Yee showed up in that same outfit that she wore. Exact same outfit. Except he's also wearing this thing that's on Jaden's head. Yeah, then they're going to go real. Then they're going to just get real ritualistic. They're going to sacrifice babies and stuff right there on the red carpet. They're going to have to go all the way there. And then Yee's going to be like, I showed him. So Yee like pulled it out of him, so he celebrates it in a rap. It will sell. It will be at the top. It will make millions again. #1 album. Did he make an album about God recently? It'd be like, God 2. It'd be like the sequel to it. I hope they burn that red carpet when they're done with it. I hope they don't reuse those things. It'd be like reusing reproductive care. Nobody needs to see that thing ever again. Get rid of it. Thanks for listening, guys. Hope you guys having a great early AM. And I will talk to you guys later this evening. We'll be back around 8:39. Follow me on X at Freedom Act Radio. Brad Binkley. That's the fastest way to get in touch with me, through the DMs there. YouTube.com/Brad Binkley. Rumble.com/Prop Report. You can find all of the links where you can follow or help support the show at Brad Binkley, linktree.com/@Brad Binkley. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for hanging out in the chats and for all the great comments. We will talk to you guys next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.